Welcome to the Divorce Remix Podcast.
Welcome, y'all, to the Divorce Remix Podcast. I am super excited about my guest today. Now, listen, y'all, it is the month of February, and so what do you guys think about in February, right? You think about love, and that's why I'm wearing my love shirt. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about finding love later in life. Here's the thing, as we get older, maybe the way that our love life we had planned it, we had thought about it, it just didn't work out that way, okay? And so my guest today is going to be talking about her journey to finding love later in life. So you guys may always ask me, like, what is the point of this podcast? And so my goal is to give you guys tips, tools, resources, talk to experts, talk to everyday people to help you guys create a life you love after divorce. And so I'm excited about my guest today. Welcome to the podcast, Evelyn Sprattlin.
Thank you so much, April. It's awesome to be here.
It is so awesome to have you. So you are someone who is near, dear to my heart, love you to life.
Thank you.
And so I've been on kind of this journey with you the last few years. For those who don't know us, we work together, we've ministered together. You spoke at Divorce Remix last year. And so I've been on this journey with you. And so in March, you'll be married 2 years?
3.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was March 2020.
Wow.
We got married.
It has been 3 years since she has been married to her boo.
Yes.
And so I want you to share with us what that journey looked like, right? So when someone sees pictures of our relationships or us dating, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so great. But they don't know the journey behind getting to those pictures and getting, to those Facebook posts and things like that.
Okay.
So you were single for how long?
A little over 12 years.
12 years.
12 years. And so you used the term journey. And it was a journey and it was a process. And I have to confess, early on in the journey, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Because I never wanted to be single. I always thought that I was wife material. Mm-hmm. But life deals you some things sometimes that you don't expect. And so my first husband passed away. It's been 23 years in February. And it was on Valentine's Day that he passed away. And so the devastation of that made me think that I would never get married again. But I still knew that relationships was what I do. Like being married fit me. And as time passed on, and I failed to say that I got married the first time at 19. Yeah. I would not advise that. So I had been married a while and had not had to get into the dating game. And let me tell you, and ladies that are listening, it sometimes feels like a game.
Yes.
And so when I got back out there, so to speak, I was really green. I didn't know some of the games that people play. I didn't know that someone could tell you that they love you but really not mean that they love you, or that you're the one but you really are one of many. Yeah. So it was a process for me to learn how it works now, because I got married when I was a kid, basically. And I was green, and so I say that to say, as part of the journey, I experienced a lot of disappointment and a lot of unnecessary pain, trying to figure out, one, who I was now that I was single, two, who are people, and men specifically, that come to me with ulterior and wrong motives. Yeah. So time passed. I did date. I've gone on some dates. Did not know how to read the flags initially. Over time, you go out enough, you learn how to read the flags, the red flags, the green flags, the yellow flags, all the flags. And I got more aware. Let me say it this way. I became a better judge of character. Yeah. And so I stopped wasting time when I already knew your intentions were not good, just because of what came out of your mouth.
Oh, that's good.
And we know that the Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. well, that's not just for Christians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Non-believers speak from their heart
Right.
too. And so I would meet gentlemen that would say they were Christian. And then they would start talking.
Yeah.
And their fruit said otherwise. And it took me time to learn that. And I learned it. So 12 years in the making. I did not know I would be single that long.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me sad even now to think about that journey.
Yeah.
You get lonely.
Yeah.
You don't really know who to talk to in terms of being vulnerable, like where I'm really at.
Yeah.
In that process, you start questioning your womanhood.
Yes.
Right? And you're not getting that daily validation from a spouse. And so you start questioning, is something wrong with me?
Right.
I look cute today. Did they not see me?
Right.
You
right.
know.
I was looking good when I left the house, and nobody talked to me today.
You know. And so, but all of that's not true. It's just some of the things that go through your mind during that process. And so, what I learned, fast forward, is God was covering me because I had not healed the way that I should have healed before I come to the table trying to give somebody something that I don't even have.
All right, so we're gonna unpack some stuff right there because you said a lot. You know, one of the things that you said was getting back into dating. It was kind of like, what do I do out here? And shameless plug, y'all. That is why I have a dating remix, because I found myself in the same boat, right? So going through 3 divorces, realizing that unhealthy marriages start in the dating process, and realizing that no one ever taught us to date, specifically as Christians, right? How many people went to church and learned how to date? None of us. The dating advice I got as a young woman was don't get pregnant. Oh, okay. All right. And that was it, right? Yeah. So to find yourself single and in this space of like, I don't even know what to do, right? And so you talked about the 12 years. You mentioned something that we're going to get into, you know, being lonely. So I want to talk about the waiting period, right? So, you know, you said you got to this place of meeting men and it was just like, wait, this fruit doesn't match. And one of the things that I coach on is follow the fruit and not your feelings. Right? Because you can have all these feelings. He loves me, but what's the fruit?
Right.
You know?
Right.
He makes me happy. What's the fruit? And so I want to talk about that waiting period. So most of my audience is 30s, 40s, 50s. And so many of us have been divorced. We've been single for maybe some time and got that feeling of like, Lord, like how long this going to take? So I want to talk about some of the things that you did in the waiting period. And I use the word things specifically because I believe there's things that we need to do as single people, right? See some stuff, own some stuff, build some stuff, give some stuff back. So in the 12 years that you were single, what are some of the things that you did as a single person?
So the first thing I had to learn is to value me, right? And I don't mean this in a braggadocious way, but I had to understand you are the prize.
Yes, come
right?
on.
And if you do the work, then you will have something to present to somebody that's well worth the wait. But I also started looking at what do I love to do? I love to travel.
Yes,
And
she does.
so, and so, where do I want to go? Well, I want to go to Italy. Then go to Italy.
Come on.
Right? Do the necessary resource preparation to go to Italy. And so I connected with 2 coworkers, and that's what we did for 14 days. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we visited several cities. I would go again. I want to go to Mexico. We'll go to Mexico. You know what I'm saying? But I want to stay in a resort, and I want to get a massage. Save up your money and go. And I did it all because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would go to San Diego just for a retreat, a personal retreat, and sit on the beach, right? Why? Because that's what I wanted to do. I could not wait for a man to come to enjoy it. I've gone to some pretty romantic places, and when you talk about that sad feeling, it's like, man, this is so beautiful. This is so romantic. I wish I had somebody to share it with. Yeah. Maybe one day I will. Yeah. But right now, I'm enjoying the sound of the ocean.
Come on.
I'm having fun journaling. right? I love to read. I'm reading. I'm people watching. I like to people watch. And I'm in my element of enjoying life and living. So I did that. I had a couple of credit cards. I'm like, I want to pay these off. So I came up with a plan to get my finances in order. You know what I'm saying? I want to pay my house off before I'm X number of years old. So I started a plan for that. So each month I would feel a sense of accomplishment. Like, look, this credit card's almost paid off and you're paying your mortgage down. You know what I'm saying? I wanted a certain kind of car. And so I bought it. Like, I lived.
Come on.
Right? And I always said, whoever finds me, I know your title is Finding Love Later in Life. But love found me. Because I was in love with God. And I was in the field of my destiny. My husband found me when I was praying.
Come
on a Friday night fire service that we have at our church. Right? And so he found me. And I kept saying, whoever I meet, they have to be in lockstep with where God has already taken me. I don't have time to bring you up to date.
Come on.
Right? And I remember, this is part of the answer to this question too. I remember I had a list of 16 things that I wanted in a man. And I remember one morning I'm praying over this list, right? Like if I pray over it, God surely going to answer.
Right, absolutely. Because I prayed for it.
Because I prayed for it. And I remember it being what I call arrested in my spirit. And I'm going to say God said it because he spoke to me. I wouldn't have said it to myself.
Right.
And I know the enemy wouldn't say it to me. And God spoke to me and he said, you're not even all of that.
Oh, come on.
That was 16 things, okay? Today, by the time I met my husband, I had 3. I wanted somebody who loved God more than they could ever love me. I wanted somebody who was financially established because we ain't got time to start from scratch.
Right.
And I wanted somebody who did not smoke cigarettes.
Oh, come on.
Isn't that simple?
That's simple.
Because I hate cigarette smoke.
Right.
And I was like, God, this is pretty simple.
Right.
And I'm pretty financially established, not rich.
Right.
But I put some things in order. I love you with all my heart. And I don't smoke. You know what I'm saying? Just that simple.
Yeah.
And so those were my non-negotiables. And then I had some things, it would be nice to have, you know, it'd be nice to have somebody I could look up to, you know what I mean, Jesus? It would be, you know what I'm saying? I love a nice smile. It'd be nice if all his teeth belonged to him, you know, and they were real and just things like that. But the man that God brought in my life is not one that I would have chosen, but God didn't give me always what I wanted, but he definitely gave me what I needed. And I'm grateful.
That is so
I'm going to pause
good.
right there.
That is so, like, I got to pause.
Yeah.
When you talk about your list, and I heard it said this way, when you're single, you need to become what you're believing for, right?
I agree.
So many times we have this list, and I remember years ago, I had a list, and it was about 2 pages long. And after reading it one day, I feel like Jesus was like, April, I'm not even on that. Like, come on. I'm not even on that list. But I think that in our waiting season, that is our time to become who we want to be with. So like you said, being financially stable. You know, are you financially stable? This is the season. For me, these last 3 years, you know, the list that I had, it was things like better health. Okay, what type of health am I in? Right?
That's a good one.
My career. Do I even know what my purpose is? You know, if I want someone who knows what their purpose is, I feel like I need to know what my purpose is, right? So becoming the person that you want to be with. I love that. So I'm a traveler too. And I've heard women say, well, when I get married, and I'm going to go here and going to go there. And so my dreams, I want to see all 50 states. And I've done 26, some with other people, some alone. And I want to see all 7 continents. I've done 4. And so get out there, you know, for the lady that may be listening, get out there, travel, see the world, get your credit together, buy that house, buy that car, whatever it may be, right? Get out there and do the things. So you're 12 years in, and you shared this story with me, and I would love for you to share with the audience, where you were at this place where you were like, God, I think I'm ready. Like, I feel like I'm ready. And what did God tell you?
So let me digress just a quick second. So I initially said that, you know, one of the things I came to realize is my value, but I also knew my purpose. And so because I knew my purpose, I wasn't going to settle
Yes.
for just anything.
Yep.
Okay, so now back to your question. I had asked God, because it had been so long, so
Right.
about 10 and a half years
Right.
in, I was like, God, you know, can I date now?
Yeah.
Because I had realized in the journey that he was covering me. It wasn't time. And also he was healing me.
Yeah.
And so I was at church one Sunday and I said, God, you know, can I date now? Like, can you uncover me so somebody can see me, right? Not exactly those words,
Right.
but it was, and I heard in my spirit, you're not ready. I'm not going to let you mess over my sons, and I'm not going to let my sons mess over you. And, okay, we don't anything else, and that was it. And then fast forward, at church again, and there was a guest minister, wasn't even talking about dating.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in church service, and I heard, you can date now. And I'm like, what? You know? And I just pondered it. I just held on to it, you know? And in 2019, I got these 2 words. I know they came from God because they've since been confirmed and come to pass.
Okay.
And he said it was 2018, he said in 2019, you're going to meet the love of your life, and he's going to propose to you. So August of 2019, so we got September, October, November, December.
Right.
And I'm saying, Lord, I don't even have a boyfriend.
Come on.
I haven't even had a date
Right.
in months. So whoever I meet, they're going to be the love of my life and propose before the end of the year.
Do you know what
We got to
it
get
is?
to know each
Right.
other. We got to introduce ourselves to our families. We got to, you know, it wasn't realistic.
Right.
But I was thinking in the natural. I wasn't thinking God can do suddenlies and immediatelys and straight ways.
Yeah.
That was August, right? August the 30th, if I got my dates right. We were at Friday Night Fire prayer. And our pastor had said he was going to lead, but for us all to be ready just in case. He called on us to come up.
Yeah.
Halfway through, he calls on me to come up to pray. And I'm just praying.
Right.
It was fire in the house. And I didn't know my husband was out there.
Come on.
Didn't even know who he was. Fast forward, that following Wednesday, I meet this gentleman, and I said, our pastor, Erica, she said, I want you to write down 3 things that you want God to do right now. And so I pulled out my little journal.
I remember that night.
Remember?
Yes.
And
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So I wrote 3 things. I said, Lord, there's a gentleman that's sitting about 3 rows behind me, and he said he wanted to talk to me after service. If he is someone that I should give attention to, then he will ask me on a real date.
Ooh.
You know,
A
because
real
I've
date.
had guys saying,
Yep.
I'm just looking for somebody
Yeah.
to kick it with. I don't kick it. I don't do
I'm
kick it.
too old for
Yeah.
that.
So I said he'll invite me on a date, is what I said. And I did say real date. And so service is over. I'm forgetting what I wrote down. I forget the guy even said he wanted to talk to me. I'm headed out the side door. And I see him in my peripherals.
Right. Okay.
And he was smiling. And I thought, he's got a nice smile.
Okay.
So I was like, he wants to talk to you. Go talk to him. And you get to a point, ladies, hear me. Ladies, hear me. You don't have time to play hard to get.
No.
You just got to know
Yeah.
what you want, what you don't want, and when the door opens for it, at least give it a chance.
Yeah.
And that's where I was at. And I had already told God, God, if it ever happens, I meet somebody, wonderful. And if it doesn't, wonderful. I'm a kept woman. You take good care of me.
Come on.
But so I turned around and I said, hey, did you still need to speak to me? And that's when he asked me on a date.
A real date, y'all.
A real date. And that, you know, and that's how we started talking, meeting. And before the end of 2019, he proposed.
Yeah.
And in 2020, you know, we got married. And I get emotional about it because I see the hand of God all the way through the journey. I had to wait because when God brought this man in my life, I had to be purposeful. I had to be whole. I had to be there in the moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was. And so it's been amazing. You know, it's been amazing. And I'll pause there. So in case you have more questions for me, but I really want women that are in the waiting. Everybody's story is different. What I'm sharing is not going to be your story.
Yeah.
It's not even going to be your journey. I just want you to know about the faithfulness of God, if that is your belief system.
Yeah.
Right? But I also want you to know your value. I also want you to know if God orchestrates it, it'll be well worth the wait. Yeah. And this is a side note, because I had a young woman ask me, she said, I've been talking to this guy. I think she said talking to her, dating. And he'll say he's going to call, and then he doesn't call, and so and so and so. Ladies, when a guy is really into you, and he says, I'm going to call, he's going to call.
He's going to call several times.
Okay. If anything, he's going to call earlier than he said he was.
Right.
If you got to guess whether or not somebody's really into you, they're not into you. They're not into you. I started off talking about the games. When a guy is trying to juggle several women to see which one is the right fit, you're going to sometimes be left out because you didn't make the rank that day, that week, that whatever. Don't waste your time, baby girl.
No. No.
That movie said he's just not that into you. He ain't into you. Because when a man zeroes in that you're the one, you don't have to question anything. Because he'll pursue you like nobody's business.
Yes. Yes.
That's how you know. Don't ask me if he didn't call me and he said he was going to call. Is he into me? No. And that is the guy. You block his number. Don't just delete it. Block it. Because if you're lonely one night he calls and his number shows up on your ID, you're going to probably save it again. And here begins the cycle of being disappointed and being hurt.
I've been there, yes. And one thing that I've learned with men pay attention to action, right? So we can say, I don't want to talk to you. But if you call and we pick up that phone, then in his mind, she want to talk to me. I don't care how much say she don't, because she keep picking up the phone.
I still got her.
I still got her.
And the wrong guy, he will string you along. Why? Because he's weighing his options.
Oh, absolutely.
There might be some guys out there that will differ with me. But I've seen the pattern, and I've seen the man that's truly a man that steps up and says, no, this is the woman that I want, and they're relentless.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
So I want to ask you about, you've waited this 12 years, man of your dreams, the man God has for you is now, in your life. I want to talk about just a few of the adjustments that you had to make, right? So sometimes I think in the waiting season, we think that when we meet him, it's going to just be perfect and great. And, we don't think about what Darius Daniel says, the backside of the blessing, right? Like the transition you have to make from being single to now being married. So what are some of the things that you felt like, or even emotions that you went through after being single for 12 years that now you're married again?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. But I will say this. When in 2018, the latter part of 2018, and I got that, what I'm going to call that word, I started making room for my husband. Why? Because I believed the word I got from God. So my closet was full, and it was my stuff, and you know what I mean? But I started kind of pushing stuff to the side. I was like, and I don't want to sound cuckoo, crazy, because I'm not. But I started thinking, if you had a husband right now, you don't even have room for him in your life. Like, and it wasn't that we were going to live in my house, or I don't know where we're going to live. Right. I'm just saying, do you really have room for somebody to come into your life? So I started cleaning out my closet, not necessarily for my husband, but making room for the promise, so to speak, right? So I was preparing already. I didn't cook a lot because it was just me. I wasted a lot of food. But in thinking about a husband, it's like, what do you need to have in your freezer, to be able to prepare meals and that kind of stuff. I started thinking like that. So when my husband came into my life and we decided we'll sell his house, we'll move into my house because my house I owed less, et cetera, et cetera. And so we started talking about those things prior to getting married. So by the time we got married, it was not a difficult transition.
Okay.
And there were so many God winks along the way. The furniture he had perfectly matched.
Come on.
The color of my walls, my pit. It was just crazy. And so I got rid of some things, right, that I cherished. But if you really are ready for this, sacrifice is necessary too. So his stuff was newer and better than what I had. So don't you want newer and better? This is a new. And so we worked that out. What furniture you're going to keep? What house are we going to keep? The finances, you know. I managed everything. Like this was my money. This is when I got ready to do stuff, I could do it. Well, when you get married, it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And so we worked that out. And April, I'm going to tell you, the way it has worked out is better than what I could have managed on my own. We just kind of said, okay. I have a man like who trusts me. Like we stay in our lanes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's a hard worker, and you know we have a business together now. He knows his part. I know my part. And so we merged our finances in the way that's suitable for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to leave that out there, and people can do, because everybody is different.
Yeah.
And it's just been working. So let's get to some of the nitpicky stuff.
Yeah.
There's just certain things I like to be done. Like I get up every morning and I make up my bed. Right?
Okay.
But it was a thing where if I left for work before him, I'd come home and my bed wasn't made up. Nitpicky.
Right.
Petty.
Right.
But it's like, I want my bed, you know.
Right.
Silly. I squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom up. He squeezes right in the middle. You really, you know, I didn't have whiskers in my sink.
Come on.
Just silly stuff. But if the love is not there, it can start to grate on you. And I was like, okay, this is marriage, right? You don't want whiskers? Say, can you get the whiskers out? You want the bed made up when you get home? Say, do you mind making up the bed before you leave for work? Kind of thing. I said it. It gets done. You see what I'm saying? So some of the stuff of putting two lives together that we would let really grate on our nerves, it's just a simple conversation. Let's communicate, you know.
Because I believe that when you met Eugene, whom I love, you know, what I know about him and have met him, you know, you were waiting on the right love, you know, the right man that God had for you. And in those 12 years, you had plenty of opportunities to give up, to throw in the towel, to settle, right?
To settle.
Because I'm sure there's some men that probably looked good, right? Especially on paper. But you had every opportunity, but you decided to wait on the right love. And just knowing your story, just being there through some of those transitions of me telling you about meeting a man and him proposing and me getting those chills for you and things like that. It just warms my heart to hear your story. It gives me hope. You know, I pray that it gives the other listeners hope, you know, as single women and you know, single men that may hear this podcast. And knowing that the right love is worth the wait.
It's worth the wait.
You know, I love how you said that you took action when God said it's okay for you to date. And one of the ways I've heard it being said is faith is acting like God is telling the truth, right? So you put action behind the faith that, okay, God, you said I'm ready. And you did. It could have been 5 years later. You didn't know.
Oh, Lord.
Right? Yeah. But you put action behind your faith. And so before we close today, what would you say, you know, to those women or men who maybe are like you or like me, you know, may have been married before, widowed, and they're in this season of saying, you know, I really want that next, you know, relationship. I want that next love. You know, what encouraging words would you give us?
Well, first of all, I would say it's perfectly okay to want it, right? We better than anyone, aside from God perhaps, know how we're wired. And there are some people that, I want to make this clear, there is nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with being single, as long as you're whole. But there are some people that are wired to be in a partnership or relationship. So to those people, I'll speak first. If you know that you're wired to be in a relationship or to be a wife, you know, I knew that I was wife material. You know that you know, and you know what you know. Do some self-assessment, like be okay telling yourself the truth. Yeah. You know, there's a saying, to thine own self be true. Yeah. And if you know you're not ready, and you know there's some things you need to work out, start today. Yeah. You know, getting yourself together so you bring something to the table. Mm-hmm. You don't want a liability, and so you don't want to be a liability. But it's never too late, right? Stop ignoring the flags. I don't care what color they are.
Come on.
Every flag is a call to get your attention. Don't ignore it, and don't be desperate, right? 12 years is a long time. It might have been a little bit more than that. I don't even remember exactly. But 12 years is a long time to wait and not know. It could have been that I would have never gotten married. So I had to start living. Start living. Yes. And let him find you on the way. Come on. Right? And just love yourself. You know, that's not being narcissistic. That's not being selfish. It's not even being self-centered. If you don't love you, why do you think somebody else is going to love you, right? So that's what I would say. But if that's what you want, if you want love, don't stop wanting love, you know, and don't go out there looking for it in all the wrong places. Let it find you, but let it find you right where you are. And one of the things that I have appreciated about being married to the man I'm married to is I didn't have to change anything about who I am. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's freeing. I didn't have to adjust my purpose and my destiny. And I just, you found me where I was in the field of my destiny, right? Serving God. That's what I love to do. You joined in, and look what God is doing. So
thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
it was fun.
Yeah, it was. So, all right, guys, listen, if you're out there and you may feel like, oh, Lord, how long is this going to take? We've been there. We've both been there. Like Evelyn said, get out there and start living. Live your life, and you'll be found when God is ready for you to be found. So thank you again for tuning in for another episode of Divorce Remix, the podcast. I will see you guys next time.